Welcome to the first of our May programmes for Learning Now television. In case you missed it, we've gone twice a month now, so double the fun. Nigel, what's on today's show?
Double the work for you and me as well, Kate. Oh, we're being slave-driven.
It's true. Colin's a hard taskmaster.
Well, three things I'd like to draw everyone's attention to. The first is an interview with Christina Syriotakis. She's the Director of Learning at Deciem, the abnormal beauty company. And what Christine, I think, tells us is that it's not all about pumping courses. Sometimes L&D is actually the social manager and the community organizer for an organization. Secondly, Callie Davis, she's Sales and Marketing Director for the Learning and Performance Institute, introduces their new online suite of courses called iLearn. And finally, Martin Cousins is sharing a really important research report from Asana, which is looking at some of the trends that this current climate has thrown in our faces. So three very interesting items for us.
And personally, one of my favourite brands, Deciem, so I can't wait for that. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy the show. I'm absolutely thrilled today to be connected again with Christina Syriotakis. Christina is the Director of Learning and Development at Deciem, that some of you will know, and no doubt some of you will subscribe to, the products of the Abnormal Beauty Company. So Christina, tell us, where are you coming in from today?
I'm coming to you from Toronto, Canada.
And that's your home?
Yes.
And it's also the headquarters of Deciem. It's a Canadian company based in Toronto. Okay, so retail, going through tough times. How is Deciem coping? Just tell us about the company, and then we'll get on to how L&D is coping, or how L&D is actually helping the company thrive in these times. So how's Deciem doing?
Deciem's a beautifully resilient company. I think historically we've been through so much, and we have a spirit. It's a learning organization spirit and a growth mindset spirit of we're going to look for the opportunities in any hardship that we face, and we're going to look for creative solutions. And I think that energy and that willingness to try different things is key to our resilience and our success during difficult times like this. So I can say we've been very blessed that some of the learning initiatives that we've put in place have really enabled and empowered our people, even more so than I could have hoped and expected.
That's fantastic. So how are you helping the company? If I was the CEO, I'm sitting there thinking, we're paying this young Christina all this money. What is she doing for us? So how would you answer that? What are you doing for Deciem to help them through these really extraordinary times that we're living through?
Well, our approach immediately was, I think, like a trifecta approach. The first thing was comms as learning, and making sure that we're connecting with our leadership team to get our people real-time communication, and in a very human way. At Deciem, we say beauty is human, and I say email is not human. So leveraging our learning platform to hear from our CEO, Nicola, in her home with her little one, and to hear those human messages, because sending transparent communication and messages of hope or support through a static email is just it's not going to work. So making sure that our people had access to information just in time. The response has been incredible, because our people get on our platform and they're so grateful that their questions are being answered, open forum spaces where they can push questions up, and there should be no gaps and no anticipatory anxiety about anything, because communication, as much as we know, of course there's things we don't know, but what we do know should be disseminated to every team member. So we put together a comm strategy and a good plan for communication. Then the second piece was an engagement strategy. How are we going to keep community and family, which is so core to our values, a part of this time where we were all feeling disconnected? So we worked with our amazing brand team, and we actually crowdsourced ideas from the entire company, which we're all about a co-constructed learning experience. So what would you guys want to participate in? And ideas would come through like, Pets of DECIEM engagement challenges on Thrive or our learning platform, or post your plants, your work from home outfit, share a recipe, your at-home immune boosting remedies, just anything on the regular that could help, not only help our people feel like they had an entry point to engagement, but in some ways hold up an even bigger mirror into who the company is, because now we're seeing one another. You can see my exotic pillows in the background, and you have a better sense of who I am as a person, and I appreciate artisanal things. Then it's actually allowed us to see one another in a completely different way, and to have the courage to share who we are in a bigger way, to really reflect the culture. The third piece, in addition to engagement, was creating a space for learning that was just at-home learning that could be a really effective, I don't want to say just a curation, because of course we wanted to make sure our team members knew where to find the content that they needed to consume, but also a program. How are you going to set goals for your learning needs based on what you need to learn right now? How can you recognize that some of the things that you need to learn now, you might have not even considered L&D things like resilience, managing change, stress, anxiety, and how can we not only have you learn independently, but then be part of something communal? So we put together a Learn at Home tool where team members and managers could have conversations about what they were struggling with and set micro-learning goals to consume content as they needed, but then a live learning calendar of community-based events where they could come and participate in some of these key topics and start talking about their challenges and their experiences. And the goal there was, let's normalize these emotions. Let's make it totally okay to feel panic, to feel overwhelmed, to feel afraid, to feel emotional. And let's teach you how normal and okay this is, and give you some practical tools to navigate these times. But not just from L&D, let's actually get those tips and techniques from one another too. So even we did a session on creating a great workspace. And, I don't have an office. I've been working on my couch and my seat is sinking week over week as I sit in the same spot on my cushion. But we just crowdsource. What are you guys doing to jazz up your workspace? And, people are trading great ideas, and we're all part of this learning journey together. It's not just L&D telling you what's going to work and what isn't going to work. It's L&D just facilitating conversations and themes that we know our people need to talk about.
Do you think it's true, Christina, that what you're actually doing is taking a whole bunch of individuals who are isolated, lost connection with their organization and their colleagues, and you're building a community out of those individuals, so they still feel part of the DECIEM family. They don't feel, here I am on my own, lost and lonely, no one cares. So above all, you're showing that you care and that you can network and link people together again.
That's absolutely what our goals and focuses have been, to make sure that people feel that they're actively part of something. It's one thing to be a passive member of community and to feel like a spectator, and it's another thing to feel that I'm actually contributing to this conversation, and I'm empowered to be part of the learnings and the solutions. So simple things like when we ask people to share tips on our learning platform Thrive around how they're staying connected with their loved ones, and they give us great ideas. One of my team members, he's doing a game every weekend called Social Quistancing, and it's actually a quiz that he'll do with his family, and he puts together a little presentation, and we said, what a fun idea. Why don't we turn that into a weekly theme called board games, BORED, where we can actually crowdsource and say, hey guys, what games have you figured out to deal with your boredom? And so we might model it, and then we get everybody involved in it. And so everyone who's got so much creative energy and ideas can be part of the learning and part of the experience, not just, we did all the typical things like a Managing Through COVID channel on our social platform where we showed people what resources were out there. But what we're more interested in is what resources they're finding in their time and how they can bring that into the space so that the learning experience is truly all of DECIEM and not fragmented.
Yes. It seems to me one of the other critical things you're doing is helping build resilience in your staff so that they're up, they're optimistic, they maintain that growth mindset, and they still believe in the company and they believe in the future. They're not losing faith in themselves, losing faith in the company, losing faith in what on earth is going to happen to them in their lives. Is that true? Resilience is important to you?
Resilience was one of the first sessions that we wrote when we started looking at our live learning calendar. The resilient spirit of DECIEM is actually why I wanted to join the organization. I was incredibly struck by the ability to overcome adversity and to turn hardship into meaning. So with what we faced when we lost our founder, committing to supporting mental health initiatives, committing to honoring his legacy by driving forward this culture of family, which is why he built DECIEM. And that's where hardship becomes meaningful and purposeful. And so I wanted to make sure that we could carry that forward and you want to balance honoring the space where things are difficult. We didn't want anyone to feel like you can't have a hard time right now and it's not okay to share that you're struggling, but where can we leverage the opportunities here and switch into that growth mindset? And that's been really empowering for people to say both, you know what, there are times when I'm feeling sad, scared, frustrated, angry, threatened, and also let me manage. We've talked a lot about the circle of control and what we can teach our people to focus on in terms of what they can control and influence versus getting preoccupied in that area of concern. And so what can we control? Well, we could control our learning during this time. We can't control when the stores are open again. We can't control how much toilet paper is on the shelves and all those things, but we can actually control aspects of our mindset by taking charge of cultivating our own learning experiences. And that's really helped people. Even helping teach people how to create routine and structure in a time that seems, you're never sure, is it time to take the pajamas off and put on work clothes now? Am I in my off time? And just having conversations around those things so people could feel that there's some semblance of structure in their lives. So definitely about resilience, about helping our team members find productivity and balance, and just a safe space to communicate openly.
Christina, I think those are fabulous tips, and I hope you inspire others when they watch this interview and that they're encouraged to do the kinds of things you're doing and focus, number one, on maintaining that engagement, engaging with in order to maintain engagement and keeping people not only focusing on their own learning needs and development needs, but also focusing on being ready for work or ready for full-time work when it all kicks off again, and it will. I think it's a very positive message. So Christina Siriotakis, Director of Learning and Development at DECIEM, all the way from Toronto, Canada. It's such a pleasure to talk with you today.
You too, and thanks for saying my last name correctly. It doesn't always happen.
I have to rehearse.
Our learning experiences unlock potential, transform the performance of people and organisations, and help millions around the world build happy and successful careers. We change lives with evidence-based learning that works, sparking real change for real impact.
Next up, regular contributor Robin Hoyle talks about the possible upsides of the current COVID-19 situation. Bit of a different look.
So it may seem odd to want to talk about the upsides for learning and development of the current lockdown and the situation that we all find ourselves in. Now, I don't want to minimise or downplay any of the horrible things that are happening around the world and the real challenges that the lockdown is creating for us, whether that's economically or in our health or in relation to contact with friends and family, many of whom need our contact more than ever. And I'm not being Pollyanna-ish and trying to make the best of a bad job either. I've seen a few things that are really quite interesting and which I hope will endure beyond whatever the lockdown period is. And I don't know what the world's going to look like when we come out of this, but I think these 4 things are going to continue. You've probably noticed other things. I'd be really interested to hear what they are. The first one for me is around timing. Now, whether or not we think it's a good idea or not, learning and development is essentially an event-based business. We've brought people together into workshops, whether we've given them stuff before, whether we've put things in place for them to do afterwards. The workshop has been a real focus of learning and development activity. And because it's difficult to organise, it's expensive, the logistics are hard, we've tended to try and cram everything into that couple of days. And so we've spent a lot of time thinking about that. And sometimes some of it sticks and sometimes some of it doesn't. We've had to replace those events with other ways of contacting people, of bringing them together in groups. And so we've been running virtual sessions, and of course we've been running them in shorter periods, 90 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it is. And as a result of which we've seen some other benefits which remind me of Andrew Jacobs' 3 justs. And you've probably heard him say, just in time, just enough, just for me. And I think that's a cracking mantra to have when we're thinking about learning design. Now it's starting to become really apparent that we can do that because we've been giving people digital content, inviting them to a virtual session for 90 minutes or so, and then giving them other things to do, other activities, whether that's more e-learning or some infographics or see some videos or go and do some tasks and report back. And then giving them another virtual session. So that breaking the tyranny of having to get everything done in a couple of days because that's the only time we've got access to people has had some real benefit. And the second thing is associated with that because it's around the way in which that digital content is seen. Now, digital content has often been seen as a bit of the poor relation, particularly e-learning. And one of the reasons for that, let's be absolutely honest, is because the learning tech industry have constantly promoted it as a cheaper way of doing the same stuff. And so we've got to be really clear about the benefits of using digital content and that it does go beyond a book with a next button. That we can create some really engaging, interesting, exciting ways of interacting with people online. But it's not just giving somebody your PowerPoint slides and going, here you are, turn that into some e-learning for me. There's a real skill involved in creating proper digital content for learning purposes. And I think people are starting to get to grips with the fact that it isn't just a case of making yet another e-learning program which is click, 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 test. So we're starting to get a reappraisal of digital content, which is brilliant. And alongside that, we're also seeing that we're losing this idea of the digital world being a facsimile for real life. And that's my third thing that I've noticed. When I first started designing digital content for learning more than 20 years ago, I was constantly asked by clients to, well, we've had this idea. We thought what we'd do is create some kind of virtual training centre, and my heart would sink. Because it was a bit like the end of Bullseye, if you remember that, when Jim Bowen would say to a crestfallen contestant who hadn't won, let's see what you could have won. We were constantly reminding people that they weren't going to a real training centre, that they weren't getting time away from work to think about these things, or that they weren't getting a couple of nights away from their kids to go and stay in a lovely country mansion somewhere. You know, what we were telling people is, here is a cheaper, less good alternative, but we're going to constantly remind you of what you could have had. And that extends not just to things like creating a virtual training centre, but the other week, one of my colleagues said, can you help me post this academic paper up to our platform that we use? And so I helped them do that, and it was brilliant content. I can't tell you how good it was, but It was 11 point Times New Roman in 2 columns. It had been designed for print. And so it affects not just what we create, but also what we curate. And if you look at some of the work by Pearson, Deloitte, Emerald Works, McKinsey, they are using the web for research reports and information in a way which is much more interesting than putting a 2-column Times New Roman 11-point document online. And so we need, where we've got permission, to repurpose that material to make it fit for the purpose which it is now being used for, not just point people off at it and say, it's over there, go and look at it. Because do you know what? They won't. So I've seen that happening, and it's working really, really well. And I think that whole idea of the digital world not representing and replicating real life in that sense also extends then into the 4th area that I've noticed, which is increased collaboration and appropriate collaboration which uses digital tools. Now, I've been using collaborative mechanisms within my learning design for a number of years now, and I have to say it's been an uphill struggle. With some organisations, getting them to understand what I mean, getting them to think about what is the learning culture within their teams that they would need if they're going to make this work, was really quite tricky. Well, now everybody's had to use these platforms to collaborate. So whether they're using Slack or Teams or various other mechanisms that are out there, for the first time they've been forced to do it. And as a result of being forced to do it, they've actually gone, hey, do you know what? This is okay. This is quite good. In fact, I'm getting more information than I used to get from having to arrange meetings and turn up somewhere. I'm getting better and wider access to people than just the people who work in my office or just the people who share my brew station. And suddenly that collaborative process is wider, slicker, more effective, and there is an automatic record of it. So we're not just replicating the world that they find, but we're really using collaboration differently. And of course, that means that when we're knocking on that door to talk about collaboration within learning in the future, that door is already open to us. And that's got to be a good thing, because the more that we can focus on individual requirements by not worrying about the timing, do better digital content, which doesn't just try to replicate stuff that's missing, but actually starts to work in a way which is a new way of using digital tools, then I think it will be easier for us to help organisations improve their performance and individuals to improve their competence and the teams their capability. And that's what we're about. So I'm hoping those 4 things will continue in the future, whatever world we face after this. And if you've seen other things that you hope will continue, let me know what they are.
DPG's online courses are designed to fit around your life, so you can study anytime, anywhere. Get in touch now for more info.
Well, we're back to our normal research slot with the inimitable Martin Cousins. Slightly different circumstances, as we're used to sitting next to each other in a studio, but we're sitting next to each other, kind of. 2 cameras side by side. And Martin has chosen another interesting, hot off the press research report for us to talk about. Martin, what have you chosen for us today?
Hi, Nigel. Hi, everyone. I'm going to refer to my notes, so excuse me if I do look down occasionally. Today, we're looking at a report by Asana, and it's called Anatomy of Work Remote Teams, and it's a global study of 5,000 employees. And I was just going to look at the findings of the 1,000 employees in the UK. And what makes this good is it's about now. It's about what is the employee experience of remote working.
I've had a look at this report, and there are some very interesting and quite surprising conclusions to my naive and less experienced eyes than yours. So what struck you? What made you choose it for us?
Well, I think now is the opportunity for employers and organisations to understand what is going on in terms of remote working. For the only time in living history, everyone is working out of the office, or pretty much everyone. So that means that they are getting on with work in the way that they can and the way that they know best currently. And it is not the way that is sanctioned by the employer who in the office. So there's no one watching you really, unless you're one of those few big organizations who are snooping on people, but hopefully you're not. So basically it's an opportunity to understand how people are working, and this data gives us a sense of that. So for example, only 41% of employees are working the same hours since they started remote working. So they're working differently, different amount of time spent working. 9 to 5, I don't think so. That's not happening anymore, not according to this report. 57% say they're taking more breaks, and 36% are having fewer meetings. Now that's interesting, more breaks, but even more interesting is the meeting. 36% are having less meetings. So what does that mean? What does that mean for your organization? And also 30% say they are starting their working day earlier, 27% are working later in the evening, and 24% are working while juggling other priorities such as childcare. Now, the thing about this...
Can I just interrupt there just very quickly? The staggering figure from the UK is that 85% of workers in the UK, the highest anywhere in the world from their survey, are juggling school-age children, balancing childcare and full-time work.
Yeah.
So they're right immediately. You've got an issue, and you're in the middle of that as well. You're part of the 85%, Martin.
Yes. Now, I didn't go down that rabbit hole because it's a whole topic in itself, really. That number of people is big. And also there are lots of challenges in there. But coming back to the other data points I was mentioning, the thing there is, what does that mean for the learning team? Knowing that people are working different hours, working less hours, working with more breaks. What does that mean exactly? In terms of being in touch with people and doing what learning has always done, how does it actually engage with people who aren't sitting in an office working set hours, which everyone knows about, right? So I think that's fundamentally,
it is fundamental. But linked to that is also the difficulty in staying motivated, continuing stress about their own health and the health of the company they work for, and an inability to switch off and disconnect, even if they're working fewer hours. And that's really scary, I think, that you've got people juggling healthcare, childcare, educating their children while trying to work, plus being worried sick about whether they still have a job the next week, and worried sick about what would happen if they got sick in that family environment. So a lot of stress, a lot of pressure. But interestingly, they say from the report that managers are helping, that not all managers, but the vast majority of managers seem to recognize the issue and are being sympathetic and helpful.
Yeah, I think that, this isn't all bad. In actual fact, I don't think it's bad at all. No. I think it provides insight into the employee experience right now. So if you're an organization that isn't measuring this stuff, then at least you've got this as a kind of way into it. But I think it should encourage everyone to start asking some of these questions.
Yes.
I mean, there are some quite fundamental ones here, like how well set up were UK employees to work from home? And 67% did not have at least one of the following: a desk to work from, a laptop or a PC, or a reliable internet connection. 67%. So they didn't actually have the basic things you need to work.
No,
and if you think...
And one in five are working from home for the first time in their lives.
Yeah.
Which is extraordinary.
So, yeah, and I think, and the other thing is that people are working on sofas on their bed. You know, so it's not
ideal.
Might be a make-do situation, but clearly, if this is going to be something that we're going to be doing a lot more of into the future, then that whole setup at home and what that looks like is going to be really important. So I just thought this was an interesting hot topic to be looking at right now, and I think it should provoke organisations into understanding this kind of situation a lot more deeply, and then what does that mean for learning and development, I think would be the next question.
Big questions, big issues, lots of data that gives us a little snapshot on the world, and I think well worth everyone reading it. It's not a long report. It's easy to find and easy to digest, and we'll put a crawl on the screen that will point you towards it, and it's free, of course. So Martin, thanks for drawing that to our attention, and always good to talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now I'm pleased to welcome the Learning and Performance Institute's and Learning Now TV's channel partner, Callie Davis, who is Global Sales and Marketing Director, and here to talk to us today about their new online digital academy, LPI Learn. Callie, welcome to Learning Now TV.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
I can't actually believe we haven't had you on before, so thank you for coming on today. And I know that LPI Learn is a project that is particularly close to your heart, and you have been very much involved with from the start. So I sat at Learning Live 2019 when a sort of sneak preview, if you like, a bit of a preview of this online academy was announced. And now here we are several months later. I'm assuming you've been quite busy in the interim putting this all together.
That's right. Yes, we have. The LPI has realised for some time now that the workforce is more digitally empowered, and the L&D function needs to evolve to be able to have the relevant and appropriate skills to support that workforce. We took the decision to create an environment that had a repository of resources from multiple areas and multiple partners that enabled a student or an individual to undertake learning at the point of need.
And it's all, am I right in thinking that the different areas are aligned with the capability map, the LPI capability map?
Yeah, so everything from the resources and online assets that are available through our accredited organisations and industry thought leaders and experts, through to the programmes and the structured self-paced digital programmes that are available, all sit around the capability map framework, so that you know that the subjects are relevant and appropriate to what you need working in a modern L&D function.
So if I'm head of a learning team within a corporate context, and we talk a lot about the skills gap around analytics, for example, I know that's an area that the capability map looks at. I can sort of say, right, I can look at LPI Learn and think, well, actually, I can put my team through a series of self-paced steps, and that should fill that particular gap. That's how it works?
Yeah, I mean, there's several points of access. So from a user perspective, you have the ability to rapidly skill in the areas that you need at the point that you need it. From an organisational perspective, you have the opportunity to work with the LPI through the capability map framework and understand the skills gaps and plan and work with us to develop to what you need. Within the back end, and we selected to work with a New Spring as our partner for the platform, it would allow an organisation to have absolute flexibility in how they provide the learning and how they assist the student and guide them through the skills that they need, with the ultimate flexibility from the learner experience, but also at the same point to be able to understand the progress, understand the trends, see where the most common accessed areas are. And we will continue to provide assets and resources onto that platform based on the outputs from the capability map and the skills that the market actually needs to improve.
That's really important, because sometimes if I'm running that learning team, I might not know what my people don't know. So you've actually got to you can go through that period of assessment as well.
Yeah.
And how are you obviously curating and pulling in content from lots of different sources? So you mentioned working with your accredited providers. Is it just accredited providers that are inputting into that? How are you working through that curation process?
No, absolutely. I mean, I think one of the key things is around trusted content. So we have this sort of, for want of a better word, the editorial control around the content that appears on it. So from a learner and getting value from it, it has to sit under the framework of the capability map as it is today and what the future will bring. So if you look in the environment, there's futures for things like, AI and cybersecurity, that whilst they aren't part of the framework now, they may be in the future. We're also trying to populate it with easy to consume assets. So articles, research, white paper, videos that come from organisations that are accredited by us, like sort of Filtered, DPG, Docebo, those types of organisations that provide services that improve the L&D industry, but they also have a lot of valuable content that can help the learner at the point of need. In addition, we work with industry leaders, so we have information on there from people like Kevin Yates at Facebook, Laurie Niles-Hoffman, Martin Cousins, Bianca Bauman, Don Taylor, Ed Monk, those sort of types of people that have vision and thought leadership that's valuable, but it's enabling this content to be in an easy to consume place and searchable at the point of need.
And obviously within a framework as well. And that's the
Absolutely.
thing, isn't it? I think, we all can sit there and say that we want to improve our knowledge in a certain area, but, where do you even start? Like trying to pick your way through Google, and it's all very well saying you've got YouTube, but it can be like finding a needle in a haystack, can't it? So
Absolutely.
with the current situation around, you've obviously launched this at a time of huge digital disruption and people desperately trying to enable their teams to work more virtually and more digitally. Has the coronavirus situation impacted any of your areas of focus or any of the priorities around the Academy?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important to say that this has accelerated the need for accelerated change anyway. But through that acceleration, we've now been able to bring out two core skills in terms of digital asset development and video production, structured programs that give people the real skills that they actually need at the moment in this current situation, and access to that repository of information for things that they need, like how to prepare for virtual classroom, how to best build learning in a remote workplace, how do they manage remote workers. All of this information we believe is current and relevant for the situation as it is. We're trying to also support those frontline workers and specifically the NHS workers. So if you're an NHS worker, you're able to access this free of charge and have access to that repository and that information.
That's brilliant. And if people are interested in just finding out a bit more or just having a demo or whatever, where do they go and how do they go about that?
Yeah, I think if you have a look on the LPI website, there's a lot of information and there's a lot of resources that are available for the learner that can be downloaded to support them in the current situation. If you wanted to understand more about, from 2 or 3 perspectives, whether this is relevant and appropriate for your organisation to support your learner population, or whether it's something you want to be involved in from a point of view of sharing with the L&D community and helping the market in the current situation, I would go onto the LPO website. There are several sort of explainer videos that talk at a more granular level about functionality, partnerships, how to best use this environment. And there's lots of options to be able to arrange for a demo of the environment or to talk to somebody from the LPI, whether it's about instructional design, whether it's about the learner experience, whether it's about our partnerships to bring this service to market.
Fantastic. Well, Callie, I would like to say that we'll have you back on in a few months' time to talk about how things are accelerating and obviously how the current situation is potentially impacting the usage. I'd be fascinated to see kind of what some of the analytics look like in terms of, the top resources and things. So hopefully you'll join us again in a few months' time.
Be more than happy to. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Imagine a workplace where people are energised and motivated by being in control of the work they do. Imagine they have the freedom, within guidelines, to work at their best. Imagine they have managers who coach and support them rather than tell them what to do. Isn't that the sort of place you'd like to work? Can you imagine how much more productive it would be? You can discover how to do that in my book, The Happy Manifesto. Download it from here, or chat to me at any time about how to create a place like that.
In the L&D world, we all know our biggest challenge is knowledge fade and demonstrating ROI from our training interventions. At Elephants Don't Forget, we use artificial intelligence to guarantee that what you train your employees, they learn and retain. If you are looking to transform the impact your training content has in your business, improve the ROI, and perhaps help employees learn and retain even the dull regulatory material, drop me a line at nelly@elephantsdon'tforget.com.
Next up, we present a light-hearted look at working from home from our friends at the Charity Learning Consortium.
For me, working at home can be tough, so I like to treat my days as I would do with any other work day.
Put a routine together, put a schedule together, and divide the day into maybe 4 or 5 different slots.
I like to set up my space in a bright and airy room. I've only got one room in my flat, so this is the room.
I'm not in working from home because rather than commuting to work, I can do some exercise.
That's good.
Don't forget to take regular breaks, have a coffee, and maybe speak to some of your work colleagues.
But not too many breaks.
Use Zoom or GoToMeeting or something like that and have a video conversation with somebody.
Rest your mind. Play some ping pong.
Sometimes you can teach new skills to your kids. So I'm going to let Charlie cut my hair.
It's a great chance to learn a new skill.
Remember to stay clean.
Try not to be distracted by normal household distractions.
The trouble working from home is when you've got a tree surgeon who's also working from home, living next door.
When I work from home, I just chuck on a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, pretty much the same as when I'm in the office. There's a lot of talk about, you should get dressed and put on business attire, but I don't think it really matters. I think it's what's best for you and what feels most comfortable for you.
Ring, 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 ring. Hello.
I think it's really important to set a start time and then to set a finish time. So at the end of the day, I shut my laptop and then I can open a huge bottle of gin.
Splendid.
Studies have shown that learning programs are now crucial weapons in the fight to attract and retain talent. Working closely with modern learning organizations across the globe, we have developed Learning Programs of Excellence, a prestigious award recognizing exceptional, state-of-the-art learning programs. If you're a learning department or function, LPE will help you attract new talent. You'll boost your appeal as an employer by showcasing the caliber of your learning programs and development opportunities within your organization. If you're a provider of learning, LPE gives you an absolute guarantee that your learning programs are capable of creating a lasting positive effect on performance and business outcomes. Get in touch with the Learning and Performance Institute now and begin your Learning Program of Excellence journey.
And now Rob Clark from Learning News is interviewing Peter Labrow. Peter is giving some timely advice for our L&D vendors.
Peter Labrow has advised businesses on marketing and communications for many years, including for many learning sector businesses. Peter, welcome to Learning News and thank you for taking the time to talk to us.
Hi Rob, it's a pleasure.
We're seeing a lot of price reductions, Peter, free courses and offers as an initial response from learning providers. What's been your advice and what is your advice for marketing and communications at the moment?
What I'm trying to get people to think about, and I've been talking to my customers about, is to think about what we're going through as having three very definite stages. During this first phase, the world is frantically trying to sell. The problem is everybody's selling and nobody's buying. The harder you hit people, the more likely you are to have them push back against you, and it creates a longer term problem for the business. As quickly as possible, get out of survival mode and work out what your normalization is for the lockdown, and get the business trading in a different way and marketing in a different way. And during that period, it's essential to prepare for the third stage. Can't wait for it to arrive. You have to be ready so that when the opportunities start coming in and the economy starts turning around, you're poised, ready to go. But what that means in practical terms in stage two is a lot of the messaging that organisations have got is out of kilter with what people are buying. So, for instance, the emergency message from learning providers will have been around maybe cut price courses or getting things done or how well they're turning things around. In the second stage, this has become business as usual. The message doesn't really want to be about a moment of instant change. These have become core messages. So actually the whole message of the organisation may well need to change.
How can we sort of plan for that now? I mean, we're in stage one, I think, still at the moment, where many people may feel that they're in the emergency stage of reacting.
It's okay to spend some time helping others and just step back a bit from sales and marketing, just while you can work out what needs to be done. What I would definitely not do is anything that leverages the situation. And there's a huge backlash from people who are selling things on the back of got pandemic, we've got a solution, broadly. And those things just do not go down very, very well at all. So, and a lot of hard selling that's being done. And I would just say you need to keep away from that.
Every human, every business is affected by this. This is the one thing I can recall in my lifetime where we're all connected through this.
Well, I think we have to have a great deal of empathy for our customers' situation, and we need to focus on their well-being and their business's well-being and make decisions based on that, whether those are operational decisions, sales decisions or marketing decisions. Now, that's just sound advice at any point in time, but right now I think it's really important. I mean, there are brands who are doing unhelpful things and they're hitting the news because of it, and I think it will have a long-term negative impact on the business. Try to be a positive force, but don't talk about how great you are and what a good job you're doing. Focus on your customers and what you can do for them and the problems that you're solving. Again, that's just good publicity advice most of the time. I would also say you don't want to be too upbeat because it's going to come across as being tone deaf. So there's a balance to be struck. And also try and get back to your normal brand voice. It's understandable that in times like this that you would go off brand while you sort things out, but it's also important that you go back to it. Try and provide the truth. to your own teams and to your customers. I mean, organisations don't like to do this. They like to say, oh, everything's fantastic, we're all sailing really well. But actually, we're all in quite a mess one way or another. And it's okay. We can tell people that. You know, we can have those conversations. Being transparent is good. And it's equally good with your employees. You know, consider out the message to your employees.
Thank you very much for taking the time to join Learning News today.
Well, that's a wrap, Kate. That's another program over. I hope you found it useful. And we've been searching around intently for online conferences that might be of interest. Kate, did you find any?
There are some, yes. I'm pleased to say the conference circuit is still alive and kicking in the virtual world. So our friends at the CIPD have moved their Festival of Work entirely online on the 10th and 12th of June. And our friends Will Tolheimer, Matthew Richter and Ashley Sinclair are creating an ambitious L&D conference over a period of 6 weeks, including synchronous and asynchronous sessions, online networking, the lot. The details are on screen now.
Yeah, I think that second conference looks really innovative and interesting. And as usual, Will's real focus on attention to detail will deliver something very special. I'm going to be hanging around that conference as well, Kate, so I'll see you there at some point.
Yes, I'm speaking, so yeah, looking forward to it.
Excellent news. Yes, I've seen your face right there on the screen in the big promotion. In fact, people are saying that most of the reason why people are signing up is because they can see your face on the screen. Hey, so if you've got questions and queries, please send them for our L&D panel. Just email them to Colin Steed, or to LNTV. The email address will be on the screen now. And our next coming together will be on the 28th of May. So that will be our second May edition. And we will definitely see you there. Bye.
Bye-bye.